All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we are going to deconstruct exactly how the world's most recognizable brand was built. We're looking at some incredible insights drawn directly from Jan Mauro's fascinating book, Own the Feeling, which outlines a brilliant four-move playbook that essentially built the entire Coca-Cola empire. And the absolute best part? It's a playbook you can steal and apply to your own business today.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the sugar-water problem, then break down the four strategic moves: owning an emotion, engineering a ritual, the reach of desire, and promise versus story, before finally wrapping up with how you can build your very own unkillable brand.
Section 1. The sugar-water problem. The illusion of the uncopyable product.
To start things off, let's strip away literally everything you think you know about Coca-Cola. We really have to address this fundamental paradox that sits at the very heart of their business. I want you to ask yourself, what are you physically buying when you pick up that famous bottle? If we completely strip away the billion-dollar marketing, the childhood memories, and that iconic red logo, what is actually sitting in your hand?
Well, let's be real. It's just easily copied sugar water. It's carbonated water, a bunch of sweetener, some caramel color, a little phosphoric acid, and a hit of caffeine. Now yes, the company fiercely guards this secret flavor mix, but a competent food scientist could probably reverse engineer a near-identical liquid in an afternoon. In blind taste tests, most people literally can't even tell the difference between this and a generic store-brand cola.
And that fact brilliantly illustrates the core of the sugar-water problem. The product itself is incredibly ordinary, and yet Interbrand ranked Coca-Cola's brand value at roughly $58 billion. So how on earth does an easily copied drink command that kind of insane value? The answer is simple. When your product is easily copied, you absolutely cannot compete on features, and you definitely can't compete on price. You must compete on meaning.
Section 2. Move 1. Own an emotion. Annexing a feeling, not a product.
So if you want to escape that brutal price competition trap, you must execute this first move and deliberately annex a universal positive feeling rather than just pushing a product. Coca-Cola didn't sell flavored sugar water, they sold refreshment, happiness, and togetherness. Looking at this feeling ladder, literally every business starts down at the bottom rung. Function. This is just what your product mechanically does. If you stay down here, you're competing on price forever. The middle rung is identity. You know, what choosing your product says about the customer's tribe. But you have to climb past functional specs and identity to reach that top rung, feeling. When you hit this top step, your brand becomes an automatic shortcut in the brain. When a customer just wants to feel refreshed or happy, they instinctively reach for you, and they will gladly hand over an emotional premium to get it.
Section 3. Move 2. Engineer the ritual. Turning choice into a habit.
Now, having a feeling floating around in the abstract is nice, but it's fragile unless you anchor it to the physical world. This is exactly how you turn a conscious choice into a completely automatic subconscious habit. Coca-Cola built this incredible multi-sensory portfolio of distinctive assets to anchor that feeling. Think about it. The glass contour bottle was designed back in 1915 specifically so you could recognize it in the dark. You've got that highly specific red color, the flowing Spencerian script, even the sound, that satisfying hiss and fizz when you pop the cap. And of course, they engineered a ritual around consumption, like pairing a freezing cold Coke with your fast food meals. These assets completely bypass the rational part of your brain. They trigger instant recognition and actually summon that feeling of happiness before you've even taken a single sip.
But to protect those precious assets, the playbook insists you submit to what Mauro calls the tyranny of consistency. And this is tough, because marketers get bored. You stare at your logo and your brand colors every single day, and eventually, you just get this itch to redesign things just to shake it up. But the real secret is resisting that urge. The customer isn't tired of your branding, they're usually just starting to remember it. Relentless consistency is what builds the compounding recognition that makes an asset truly distinctive. Keeping your core assets completely fixed for decades, that is what builds the empire.
Section 4. Move 3. Reach of desire. Availability is a branding act.
This move completely shifts our focus over to physical and mental presence. Robert Woodruff, who ran Coca-Cola for much of the 20th century, operated on a beautifully simple doctrine. A brand that owns a feeling and a ritual still totally fails if the customer cannot reach it the exact second they want it. So Coca-Cola reframed logistics as an act of branding. They built a massive global franchise bottler network, meaning local partners actually funded the capital-heavy expansion. They dropped millions of bright red branded coolers all over the globe, and amazingly, for over 70 years, they kept the price fixed at exactly 1 nickel. Why? To guarantee democratic accessibility. Wherever thirst struck, boom, a Coke was already sitting there within arm's reach. And at 5 cents, grabbing one required absolutely zero friction and zero thought.
And here's the kicker. That massive physical ubiquity feeds directly into mental availability. When a brand is literally everywhere you look in the physical world, it is constantly depositing memories into the customer's subconscious mind. This ensures your brand becomes the absolute default reflex. When someone simply thinks of the vague category, soft drink, Coca-Cola is the very first name that surfaces. Being that default mental reflex, that's the absolute highest peak of brand dominance.
Section 5. Move 4. Promise versus story. Reinvention without drift.
All right, so we have the emotion, the ritual, and the availability. Move 4 is where most companies ultimately drop the ball, and it can be fatal. It requires walking a really tricky tightrope. You have to balance extreme consistency with relentless cultural updates. On the left side here, we have the promise. This is your fixed, emotional contract with the customer. For Coke, it's that simple, accessible moment of refreshment. This must remain untouched scripture. Do not mess with it. But on the right side is the story. This is totally flexible. These are your ad campaigns, your flashy new AI commercials, your latest slogans. Your story has to be treated almost like fast fashion, updating constantly for every new generation and every new medium. Companies literally die when they mix these two up. They'll protect a stale story, or even worse, they'll accidentally change their core promise.
And if you want a textbook case of what happens when you accidentally change the promise, just look at the epic 79-day New Coke disaster back in 1985. The company had a mountain of data proving that people genuinely preferred a sweeter taste, but they fundamentally misunderstood their own brand. That specific taste wasn't just a feature to be optimized in a lab, it was a sacred, distinctive asset that stored almost a century of memories. The market reacted to this improved recipe not with gratitude, but as a deep, personal betrayal. They messed with the fixed promise, instead of just updating the flexible story.
Section 6. Build your unkillable brand, the 90-day application. Okay, let's pivot out of Atlanta, Georgia, and look directly at your own business. How do you take these massive global concepts and actually run this playbook yourself without a billion-dollar marketing budget? Well, this concrete 90-day action plan maps those 4 moves to very specific implementation steps. In days 1 through 20, you figure out the single universal emotion you are going to annex. In days 21 to 45, you lock down just 2 or 3 distinctive assets and build a ritual around a recurring moment for your customer. By days 46 to 70, you are mapping exactly where your customer feels desire, and you make sure you are available right there, removing every ounce of friction. And finally, days 71 to 90, explicitly define your untouchable promise and separate it completely from the stories you are going to constantly refresh. This proves you really don't need a massive budget. You just need ruthless, unwavering strategic discipline.
Since you now possess the exact step-by-step mechanics of building an unkillable brand, I want to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought. Your product is almost certainly better and far more complex than carbonated sugar water. Coca-Cola built a $58 billion empire on an ordinary, easily copied liquid simply by executing these 4 moves flawlessly. You know the moves now. The playbook is right in front of you. So, what's your excuse? It's time to get to work.